Welcome back, everyone. Scardy Mo's back online. In this video today, we're going to be analysing this interview between GB News presenter Steve Edgington and Dick Tice. And in case you're wondering who I'm talking about, it's this guy right here.
Wow! What a party! What fun!
Yeah, this absolute circus clown of a performer, Dick Tice. He's very good at performing on a stage in front of these die-hard cultists, but he's not very good at orienting himself, is he, in an interview? In what a lot of people on X are describing as a car crash interview for Dick Tice. So let's just see what he has to say in his answers in response to very valid questions that Steve presents. Shall we?
Should Britain ban the burqa?
Let's have a debate about it. Let's have a discussion. I don't think really there's been a proper debate about it.
Look, Richard, there is nothing to debate about banning the burqa. What is needed to debate about this topic? He has no conviction in the things that he says. Like, it's a security risk. It's a national risk. And frankly, it's not in the interest of public safety. And also, in Islamic culture, women wearing the burqa is a demonstration, a very clear demonstration that the value of a woman is to be suppressed and diminished. These third world backwater practices shouldn't be present in the United Kingdom in the first place. Banning the burqa, let's have a debate about that. Cousin marriages, let's have a debate about that. Sentient animals having their throats, let's have a debate about that, shall we? Richard, let's have a debate about men wearing full-face burqas, having safety vests around their body underneath the burqa, donning up explosives all around, across their body, walking into the British National Museum and yelling, Allahu Akbar, and then setting the whole building alight. Let's have a debate about that, shall we? This guy is an absolute joke. He has no principles, no conviction in the things that he says.
So reform could be the next government. You're leading in the polls in the next few years. So you've got to have a position on it. I know that the party put out a sort of statement saying it wasn't their policy.
Yeah, but it's not a reasonable
policy.
You don't have to have a policy on everything. And just because someone says, let's have a debate about something, doesn't mean you have to have a policy on it. You don't have to have a policy on anything 4 years out from a general election, right? And people need to stop being childish about this. Grow up and accept that let's talk about stuff, let's formulate positions, let's listen to our own membership.
They didn't say we don't have a policy. They said banning the burqa is not our policy. Do you see what I mean? There's a slight difference there. So
there's no difference at all. You don't have to have a policy on everything. Full stop. We didn't have a policy on it at the last general election. As far as I can recall, it wasn't in the contract. And that's because there's lots of other things that we're talking about. Let's see where it is in people's thoughts and mindsets. And then, you come to a view on it.
Yeah, Richard, let's have you don't have to have a policy on everything. Let's listen to our membership. You're not really doing that, are you? You're not really listening to your core voter base when they're asking you, hey, the religion of peace is a big threat in the United Kingdom. It's one of the biggest threats that we have to the Western civilization as a whole. So this guy has no interest in reinstating Christianity at the heart of the British government. And that is a problem that I have with this guy. He lacks conviction, he lacks principle. He doesn't seem very confident in the things that he says. Do you think this guy instills confidence in the Reform Party, in his supporters? I don't think so. I don't want to hear the leader of the biggest political party come 2029, the next general election, saying you don't have to have a policy and everything.
Do you agree with your chairman, Zia Youssef, that it was dumb of Sarah to ask that question in Parliament? He wrote on Twitter just a few hours ago, I do think it's dumb for a party to ask the Prime Minister if they would do something that the party itself wouldn't do.
I'm focusing on the debate. I want to have the debate, have the discussion. I'm not interested in who says what on Twitter about X or Y.
This is your chairman.
I'm just focusing on the debate, Stephen. It's as simple as that.
As Camilla Tominey once said to you, you are someone who is proud of answering direct.
Yeah, and I'm answering the question.
You're not really.
I'm completely answering the question. Right. I'm telling you, I want a national debate on the issue. We've got our own views. We'll come up with. We may or may not come up with a party policy. People might say, actually, it's not our top list of things, and there's much more things to worry about, like the economy, which is what I talk about a lot. But let's have a discussion about it. I think it's interesting, and that's what I'm going to talk about.
Let me reiterate the question. So Zia Youssef, your chairman, said that it was dumb of your MP to ask that question in Parliament.
Stephen,
You're not answering the question. That question,
I'm answering the question, which is I want to debate. I'm not talking about individual tweets by individual people. I'm talking about having a debate. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
So this segment is quite interesting. So he doesn't actually answer the question that Steve asked. Like, do you agree with your chairman of calling Sarah Puccia dumb after asking that question? He doesn't answer the question. He skirts around the question. He talks about something else and keeps on banging on the drum about having a debate about banning the burqa and having a discussion. And did you hear him say, we may or may not have a policy on that? We may not have a policy on potential terrorists. Is that what you're saying, Richard? So he was asked twice, do you agree with your chairman about that? But he didn't answer the question. He didn't want to be involved with whoever said what, individuals. This is your chairman, Richard, as Steve says very accurately. Don't you think Zia Yusuf should have at least a discussion with you guys about this? Do you think he should at least face disciplinary action for calling his colleague dumb? This just exposes the inner turmoil within the Reform Party. It's as clear as crystal.
Do you support the mass deportations of all illegal immigrants in Britain?
Yeah, the reality is, if you're illegal, then you haven't got a right to stay in the United Kingdom. So people should be removed, and I think most people accept that if you come here illegally, if you haven't been granted asylum, then you can't stay here. And
so, should every single illegal immigrant in Britain be deported? Would Reform do that if you're in government?
Our view is that you can't be here illegally, so you've got to go through a removal process. But don't be juvenile and assume you can do that overnight or in the space of a month. You can't. And you've got to be grown up about this, okay?
Why is it juvenile to ask whether you want to deport all illegal migrants?
I've just said we should remove people who are here illegally. But there's an underlying tone in your question, which is you must do it tomorrow.
No.
There is still. There is. That is exactly. There is an underlying tone in the way you're asking this question. You've got to deport people immediately.
No.
Well, that's how it comes over.
Okay. The reason I'm asking the question is because I asked Nigel Farage last year the same question, and he said no, it's not Reform's ambition to deport every single illegal immigrant in Britain. He said it would be impossible and politically impossible. And then I asked again.
Which is exactly why I've said people can't expect to remain here. If you're here illegally, you can't expect to remain here.
But in essence, that is what Nigel Farage was saying when I asked, do you support mass deportations of all illegal migrants? And he said no. That means that some of them won't be deported.
You're obsessed with this. And frankly, I do think that we need to have a sensible way of discussing it. You're obsessed with it. And
it's not about me, Richard.
No, it is actually.
The issue.
It's about, I've asked Nigel this last year. What is the thing?
Right.
Okay. The reality
is... I didn't get clarity. That's the reason I'm asking.
You've had complete clarity, right? Which is, you can't do everything. I think you're coming at this from a point of view, you've got to deport everybody next week. You can't do that. Be grown up about it. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. But the principle is, people can't remain here illegally forever.
Right, and the principle is important, and that is why I asked Nigel Farage, again, is it your ambition to deport all these people? And he said no. And that's a principle. We will not deport all illegal migrants. And as a government, you have to make a decision. Are we going to try and deport everyone who's here illegally, or will we give some of them amnesty? There's no sort of middle ground.
Stephen, we're not in government, but if we are in government, then our position will be people cannot expect to be here illegally and stay here illegally forever.
This segment just gets very spicy, doesn't it? I mean, you couldn't meet a person more condescending and patronising than Dick Tice. He completely dodged the question. Frankly, he twisted Steve's words, put words in his mouth, and changed the whole nature of his question. Steve was asking you, Richard, do you support the idea of deporting every single illegal migrant from the United Kingdom? And he doesn't even answer the question. He goes off on a tangent and says, oh, well, anyone who's illegal in here shouldn't be illegal in the first place. Yeah, we know that, Richard. Just say it out loud. We need mass deportations. And Steve was right. He asked Nigel last year about mass deportations. Oh, no, we can't do that. It's politically impossible. It is not legitimate. It's a political impossibility. We simply can't do it. And now come 2025, Richard says the same. Well, he doesn't even say the same thing. He just gives a very lukewarm response to the question. And then he calls Steve childish and juvenile. What is childish and juvenile about deporting every single illegal migrant. Oh, you're obsessed with this, Steve. Yeah, everyone is obviously, even your own reform supporters are obsessed with this, Richard. We're obsessed with the fact that Mohammed, Jamal and Abdul are building explosives on top of a fish and chip shop, or they're planning on a mass stabbing and ramming people with their cars like they're playing GTA Vice City. Yeah, honestly, we are obsessed with this, Richard, and for very good reason. Yeah, we know you're not in government yet, Richard, but when reform actually does get into government, you need to be prepared with a list of policies, plans, and actionable procedures in order to implement the deportation of illegal migrants. This has to happen. And it's not going to happen overnight. We all know that. But he just twisted the question. But at least say it out loud. We want mass deportations. That's what we want to hear.
Is it Reform's policy to bring back Tony Blair's policy on immigration?
But it's definitely not Reform policy to bring back Tony Blair.
His policy, which is what Nigel was saying.
Yeah, he was actually doing quite well on deportations and removing people. I think, give or take, they were removing about 40 to 45,000 a year was the number.
Yeah. So from 2005 until 2010, Tony Blair's enforced deportations, this isn't voluntary people, the average was around 12,000 to 20,000 a year. That's not enough, is it?
Funny enough, I thought it was more than that. So the data I've seen is...
I'm talking just that...
Guys, did you hear that? Did he just praise Tony Blair? You heard it in that part. Dick Tice was praising Tony Blair. And this rings a bell, doesn't it? Sounds familiar. I mean, in the past, Nigel Farage was praising Tony Blair as well. So this just exposes these two individuals. They are part of the establishment. They're nothing but globalist, banking, establishment stooges. They're the Tory 2.0s. It's as plain as day.
Reform promised to publish some plans on how they would deport illegal migrants by May. It's now June. When can we expect that plan to be published?
As soon as the answer. Look, politics, it's all about timing. We've had the May elections. We've got a lot going on. And so, yeah, the plans are being worked on and at the appropriate moment. And here's the thing. There's no one better at judging the right time to flesh something out and publish it than our leader, Nigel.
Oh, Richard, mate, the expiry date is due. The rent is due. Your leader promised us by May he would deliver the deportations policy. And where is it? We're in the beginning of June already. Where is that deportations policy? Oh, no, it's all about the timing. It's still being processed. It's still being worked on. We've got a lot on our hands and we're working on it. We're working on planning this deportation. No, you're not. He is not interested. These two people are not interested in implementing deportations, and he has to blow steam up Nigel Farage's arse and claim that he's the only one who can flesh out a plan on this. They're not interested in dealing with it, not one bit.
Matt Goodwin recently published some research on demographics in Britain and projections, and he predicts that by 2063 Britain will be minority white British. Is that a concern of yours at all?
Yeah, I don't think that's I haven't seen those predictions, and 2063 is a long way off. But
it's a few decades.
Yeah, it's a few decades. Well, it's I'm trying to do the maths quickly in my head, but it's in most people. I'll be long gone. Put it like that.
Long gone. Yeah, you'll be long gone, Richard. You'll be on a one-way flight straight to Dubai. You'll be joining your girlfriend, Isabel Oak, shot herself in the foot, and you'll bring all your assets and your finances with you because we all know you're a grifter and you're a coward, Richard. You have no interest in saving this country. Do you not at least have an ounce of concern that London is no longer an English city? London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, every city and town in the UK is dominated and infested by both legal and illegal uncontrolled mass migration. If these towns and cities aren't majority white English, then how can they be English in the first place? England won't be England anymore if we don't have a majority white English population. That's coming from an immigrant myself. It's not offensive or racist to say that, is it, Richard? Absolute coward.
It will be a huge moment, though, in British history. For the first time ever in this nation's more than 1,000 years of proud history, the country will be minority white British. And
sorry, wait,
that.
You're obsessed with this stuff, okay?
So many other people, Rich. It's not just me, to be fair.
The way you ask the questions, right? Matt Goodwin's made a forecast. He may or may not be right.
Hold on a minute. Did he just slag Matt Goodwin off? He just discredited Matt Goodwin's stance by using statistics to back up his claim. It's like, you're obsessed with this. Yeah, honestly, no doubt, we are obsessed with England no longer becoming an English country, London no longer becoming an English city. These places becoming minority white English should be a concern of yours if you're a true patriot, but clearly you're not, are you? You're not in the least bit concerned about this, Richard.
But to be fair, in this interview, you've kind of said that to me, that I can't talk about certain things, or I've been aggressive on asking about, demographic.
We can talk about it, but there's a sensible way of discussing it, as opposed to, right, you've got to deport everybody tomorrow. That's ridiculous. We can talk about this, because otherwise what will happen is people watching this will say, oh, Tice is a dreadful individual, wants to deport everybody tomorrow. No, it's impossible.
Are you hearing that, guys? Richard Tice wants to appear sensible. He doesn't want to appear aggressive. He doesn't want people thinking that he's, oh, how dreadful that Dick Tice is saying that we're going to deport every illegal migrant tomorrow. That's what we want to hear from you, Richard. Because desperate times call for drastic measures. And when the genie's out of the bottle, there's migrants flooding in our country in droves. We got incident after incident after incident in every major town and city. All across the country, there's people stabbing at each other, grooming gangs, terrorist attacks, everything. People are concerned about this. People are obsessed with this. And we need a leader that can stand up like Nick Tinconi does in saying to his people, to his voters, to his supporters, to his countrymen and brethren, we will deport anyone who does not belong here, who brings foreign, alien, incompatible cultures to our country. They don't belong here. They need to be deported. Full stop.
So why is it irrational to want to deport all illegal migrants?
It's about using what I think is saying...
very rational.
Look, if you're here illegally, it's rational to say you can't stay here. But what is not rational is to say everyone's got to be deported and it's got to happen tomorrow, which is sort of the way that this could be, this could be framed. And that's just impossible.
Okay, Richard Tice, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Cool. We're done.
Did you see Steve's face at the end? He was clearly not happy with the way Richard Tice was orienting himself. He appeared very condescending. He appeared very patronising in my view. And in fact, he was twisting Steve's words, turning his question into this kind of, let's deport every single illegal migrant tomorrow. No, that's not what Steve was asking. He was asking you whether you will deport every single illegal migrant in this country once Reform ends up in power and becomes the next political party. But no, he completely has absolutely no concern whatsoever about every single issue that Steve Edgington has listed in this interview. So he's just exposed himself, exposed Nigel Farage and the Reform Party in this interview, that they are simply the Tory 2.0s. They are globalist establishment types. They have no concern, not one single bit of an issue with England becoming a white minority country. It just says it all. It just says it all, doesn't it? And everyone's right on X. This was an absolute car crash of an interview by Richard Tice. And so I think I'm just going to end it here. Just let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about Dick Tice, this absolute circus clown. This party is a joke, guys. It's time to support Nick Tinconi and UKIP. That is a real leader who I will be making a video about. He is going to deport every single illegal migrant under a UKIP government, not under Reform. All illegal migrants will be deported. Finished. Period. Full stop. It's Guardian Mode Clock now.